And we are live. Welcome to the Sneaky Flex, a Women of Fantasy Football show. I'm your host, Wendi Earley, but the real stars of the show are the champion girls, Rowan and Maisy. It's Thursday night, and it's our very last show of the season. But what better way to sign off than to have a season recap show with a very special guest? So let's bring in those champion girls to introduce their guests and get this party started, Josh. Let's go. Hey, how's it going, girls?
Good.
How are you doing today? Happy New Year.
Yeah.
What'd you do for the New Year? Did you go to a party?
I was kind of sick.
But we had a snack party.
We had a snack party. I didn't eat much. I ate some ice cream.
Oh, man.
Pringles.
You had a terrible time. You've had some sickness going on over there, kid. You better stop.
Well, I mean, I'm mostly over it now. I still have
good.
kind of a stuffy nose and a sore throat, so
Sounds
my voice
a
might
little
be a little
stuffy.
bit different.
And my stomach was hurting a bunch of times today, but it was just
It's
because
just terrible.
I needed the bathroom.
Okay, well, hey, at least we've got all these problems solved. So let's bring in your guests so we can talk about how this fantasy season ended up for everyone. Rowan and Maisy, can you please welcome our special guest to the show?
Welcoming Stephania Bell.
Yeah. I didn't know
Hello.
what to say.
Hi, Stephania. Happy New Year.
Hi, Wendi. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Rowan and Maisy.
It is finally 2025.
Yeah, finally. This year flew though, I think. I don't know.
It went
I feel like
fast.
It did. Well,
It
we
went
are
like-
so honored and
I
excited to
think-
have you join us tonight. Welcome to the show. Yeah, girls, talk to Stephania. Say hi. Tell her how your vacation's going. Well,
we went to
besides the
lunch.
sickness.
We went to lunch today.
And not much has happened.
It wasn't very good.
What was that? What did you do today?
It wasn't very good.
We went to lunch and it wasn't very good.
You went to lunch and it wasn't very good. Well, you got to
Well,
go
that's
again
a bummer. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a total bummer. She's been sick and then she finally gets to go out and have lunch and it's not any good. That's
I
just
think
terrible.
We need to go out for ice cream. That sounds better.
Well, we have ice cream.
Okay.
Plain
Good.
vanilla ice cream at home.
And also,
And then almond vanilla ice cream.
Yum.
That's our dad's.
That's all we have.
Almond vanilla?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the almond vanilla is for our dad. Ours is just the plain vanilla. Because I asked for vanilla ice cream.
Okay.
Hey,
do
you know
put
what,
stuff
though?
on it though? Like sprinkles and
No, we don't
Nope.
have sprinkles or anything.
Nothing.
yeah, but listen, you guys, what do we have? Stephania, have you ever heard of a Tim Tam Slam? Do you know what a
No.
Tim Tam cookie is?
I'm afraid to ask.
Oh,
Yes.
no, it is the best thing on the planet, okay? So I sent the girls these Tim Tams, okay?
Mhm.
And they're going to do a Tim Tam Slam live on our show tonight so they can show everyone how to do this. And it
So-
is so wonderful.
Basically, you
So, like, right
Take the
after the
cookie.
sit-start question.
you take the cookie, you bite off the corner off of this side and this side,
Okay.
and then you dip it in your hot cocoa.
Yeah, you put one end in the hot cocoa and you use it as
and
a
then you use it
straw.
as a straw. Then right as the hot cocoa touches your mouth, you shove it in there.
Wow. This sounds complicated.
No, it's not. And I'm telling you, it is the best thing on the planet, and they're going to have a good time with that later. But
Well, listen, I don't have a drink in my hand, but I'll watch you guys. How's that?
I know I'm jealous. I can't do that, but man, oh man. But Rowan and Maisy, before we get started, can you tell us who won the championship game in your home league where you played against your dad in the finals?
Us.
Us.
You beat your dad? That's awesome.
We won $244.
What?
That's big
Do
bucks
with all
there.
that cash?
And don't
No,
tell anyone. No IRS people here. They don't have to claim that, y'all.
But we are going to split it in half because if one person gets all the money, that's not fair.
So
Well, that's
122
very,
each.
very equitable of you.
Yes, that is a good lesson.
But that's still a lot.
Yes, still a lot. I mean, still, you got a lot of things you could do with that cash. I can't wait
That's
to hear what
right.
you
But
buy.
if we want, we could combine it together and buy something for $244.
True. Think of what you could get.
A nice little chunk of change there. You know what? I think that requires one last hashtag for the season in the chat. You guys know what you did, right? Let's do it. 1, 2, 3.
Nailed it.
All right, everybody in the chat, get our hashtag
Yes.
nailed it in there.
Put it in the chat.
That's right. So, Stephania, before we get going, the girls are going to have some questions for you, but where did you finish in the Scott Fish Bowl?
Well,
Yeah, I heard you were still in it a little bit ago.
so the good news is I made it further than I ever have. I made it to the finals. So I made the top 50. I was very excited about that. And our friend Scott Fish texted me at one point when I was in that round, that going to the finals, and I was in second place for like a nanosecond, but I was in second place at one point. But then that last week, I had a rough week. A lot of my players were hurt. They got hurt during the game, or their teams just had really bad games. And unfortunately, it was just about everybody. Like Terry McLaurin, who was so great for me so much of the year, had 1.5 fantasy points when I needed him the most. And so I had a few guys like that. So I think I ended up 44th out of the top 50.
That's still really good.
44 out of
Really good.
4,000. I mean, how
44 out
great
of
is that?
4,000.
That
So
is
that's
great.
not
Congratulations. Way to represent.
bad. But listen, I think there were 3 women who made the top 50. So I was really proud of us. And my goal is to do better every year. And so far I have been. Like I said, I actually hadn't made the semifinals before. So I went up 2 rounds. And so maybe next year I can try and make top 10 or even win. We'll see.
Heck
It's
yeah.
so hard to do. It's so hard
It
to do.
is.
But look at you two. You guys won a championship. I don't have any championships this year.
Well,
Last
we
year I
only
won-
made it to like round 1 of the Scott Fish Bowl.
That's
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
only.
Round one.
You only made it.
Well,
I've been
round
playing
one
for
of
3
playoffs.
years. My first
That's
year, I
amazing.
finally made
I mean,
it.
you know how many
Well-
people would like to be as good as you?
But on the first one, we got to round 3.
Yeah, our
The first time we played it.
Yeah, this is our
Well,
second year ever.
I need you guys to help me with my drafting and my
Well,
lineup.
you have to
That's
start
why
with
you
every-
watch this show.
Watch the other episodes. Like,
They know
that's
what's
what I
up.
need to do.
They know what's up. Well, I will tell you, because I know that you're a 49ers fan, poor Rowan was crushed when Christian McCaffrey went down. I mean, crying crushed.
Completely died.
Yeah,
He was, like, leading my team. He was leading 2 of my teams.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was
They
very
purchased
sad. It was very sad. The
to rely
49ers
on.
as a whole had a rough year. And for those of us who are fans of the team and went to the Super Bowl last year only to lose to the Chiefs again, it was a very, very rough season. But, you can't win them all. And we did find out that we have some other really good players. So the 49ers will have good, who had a great fantasy season on the 49ers? You know who did?
Who?
George Kittle.
And who has the shirt?
Who has
Oh, wait,
the
no,
jersey? I know, that's right.
George Kittle.
I knew it. That's why I set you up there. That's
Hey,
right.
DJ S'mores was not bad,
Yeah,
just on
he
another
was-
team, but hey.
He was not bad. I was trying to think of who else we could add to the candy list.
Oh yeah, I'm telling
have
you,
to-
we have Isaiah Pistachio already, so he's off the board.
We have what's his name? Cade Cotton.
Cotton
Like
candy.
Candy. Cotton Candy.
Cotton candy. That's good. That's good.
All
Because
right.
when you see his name, then it's C. Cotton. Cotton.
Yeah.
Cotton
It
Candy.
is. That's true.
That you two are.
There's Dallas yogurt.
Oh yeah, Dallas yogurt. I forgot
Dallas
about that
yogurt.
Of
That's
course,
good.
there's DJ S'mores, which is the one
DJ Smart. I love that one.
That's a good
I'm
one.
gonna have to work on. I'm gonna have to work on this. This is gonna be an off-season project.
Oh, Isaiah Pistachio.
Yeah,
He's the important one. He's important.
I think that he was the first one the first nickname we ever had, and it was on accident because Rowan
I thought that was how you said his name.
how to pronounce
I forget. Thought that
That's
was
a
how you
tough
said
one.
his
It is a
name.
tough one
It
to
is
say.
a hard one. There's not very many of them, so I totally understand. Most adults don't get it right. So
Sometimes I'm so bad at pronouncing it that I can't remember. So I just have to write the pronunciation with my reasons for it. Just
like
not Tajay Spears.
right.
yeah, like
but you know what?
Checo instead of
Check out.
yeah.
But see, you know what? That's important because that's how we know that you're very good at your broadcasting career already because you're practicing saying the names the right way. And it's very important that we pronounce players' names the right way. Not everybody takes that kind of attention. So I'm sure they appreciate you.
Exactly.
But the thing is, Rowan doesn't like pistachios.
Well, we
How
don't have
can
to
you
tell
not?
them that.
Yeah,
We don't
yeah,
have to
just don't tell them. But they're so good. You got to get the ones that are already.
But
You don't have to
tell
take them
'em.
apart. You know,
We
you
won't
can cheat.
tell them.
Oh, but I like throwing the shells in the fireplace. I'll give a pistachio to my mom, like, here's a gift. And she'll give me the shells and I'll just throw them in the fireplace.
See, there you go. So there's something for everyone. There's a part for everyone.
All right. So before we get started, your girls can get your questions ready. We're going to start next. But Stephania, would you say that this year the injuries were, usually I've always heard or always thought that the injuries are just so bad this year. Were they any worse this year than they've been any other year?
I can't really say at this point. It usually takes me going through the off season and looking retrospectively at the data. But here's what I will tell you. When we started this year, if you think about all the big name players who went down with injury, everybody was talking in weeks 1, 2, and 3 about how this was the worst year they could ever remember for injuries. But I think it was just because of the name recognition. And in fact, if you look at data year over year, and I've been doing this a long time, what you find is that there are times where injuries spike. And it tends to be in the first couple of weeks of the season because a lot of players don't play much, if at all, in the preseason, and they're getting acclimated to football. And that's when a lot of these injuries happen. So you see a spike in weeks 1 through 3, and then it kind of levels out. I mean, you're always going to have injuries every week, of course, but in terms of the injury rate, you see it level out, and then it rises again late in the year. And if you think about what happened this year, that pattern was pretty much the same. So I don't know numbers wise. And we always look at also the category of injuries. Like, it definitely feels like we've seen more Achilles tears in recent years than we have before. And we know that high ankle sprains have gone up quite a bit in the last few years. So it takes going retrospectively, and then you also don't want to put too much into one single year. You'd like to look at a few years in a row. But injuries are so multifactorial. There's so many reasons why you can have them that it's hard to really point a finger at any one thing. You just try and look for trends over time.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right. So Rowan, are you ready? All right, we're going to start with Rowan. You know what? Should
I be nervous?
No, not at all. Take it away, Rowan.
My first question for you is, what got you into fantasy football? Like, what got you motivated to start?
Oh, I had friends who were playing, and they were talking about it all the time. And it sounded like they were having so much fun doing it. And I kind of blew it off like, I just thought, that sounds dumb. But then I realized how much fun they were having going back through the games and talking about the scores. And this is back before everything was online. So once upon a time, long before your time, people played fantasy football without computers. And so we kept scores, and like our drafts were done on draft boards only. They weren't done online. And people were starting to be able to collect data and look at things online after the fact. But the original drafts in fantasy, you were just checking scores on your own. There was no Sunday ticket back then. We were really going game by game and checking the box scores. But I saw how much fun people were having giving each other a hard time in this league where I had a lot of friends playing. And I thought that was the fun part, was all the talk back and forth.
Trash talk.
Trash talk, right? And of course, so this league was actually co-ed, my very first one. And it's interesting because a lot of women I talked to, when they started playing fantasy football, it was all men in the league, and they were the first woman to be invited. And usually they were invited because everybody thought they would just be easy to beat, and so they were filling out the league. I know, shocking, right? But what's interesting, what I have learned over time talking to a lot of these women, is that women tend to prepare a lot, and they know that people expect them to maybe not be the one who's going to be successful in the league.
Terrible.
So I know, but guess what? They sneak up, and then they do really well, just like you two. And so when I was in it, though, there were several of us who, several women, and still mostly men, but it was a co-ed league, and it was just a lot of longtime friends, and it was really fun. And when I started playing and I really got into it, and people started asking me all these questions about injuries, that's when I figured out that there was a space for talking about injuries in fantasy football.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. All right, Maisy.
Mine is kind of like a command.
A command.
A command.
Tell us something that you like a memory about football.
A memory of like real football?
Yeah, like maybe at like a football game.
So I have a few of them. I mean, my earliest memories, so I used to go to 49ers games and Raiders games, because the Raiders started in the Bay Area right around the time, I started going to games as a kid. And so we went to both 49ers and Raiders games, but the Raiders left town. And when the Raiders left, my dad and I really stuck with the 49ers. My mom stuck with the Raiders. But so I grew up going to the games, and I don't tell this story very often. I can't believe I'm gonna tell this on it, but
All right.
you're getting it out of me. So when I was little, I used to do ballet and gymnastics and baton twirling, and they had an opportunity for us to go and do baton twirling at the 49ers. So I was 8 years old, I think. And so we were part of the on the field entertainment. So we got to go to the games all the time. And back then the 49ers were not good at all. So there was not very many people in the stands. So wherever we were performing on the field, my parents loved it because we could just move all around the field and sit wherever and watch the games. But that's how I grew up getting to know the 49ers and watching them. I was on the field with them back in the day.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, look at that. Wow, that's what I'm saying too.
I know.
All
I
right.
know there's pictures somewhere of like me in some little baton twirling outfit. But I can picture it because I've seen the pictures. So I always worry if I tell it, my brother's going to show up with like black men.
I hope he does.
Me and my little silver
I hope he
sequins
does.
at 8 years old. So.
All right, Rowan, you're next.
My next one is so this is kind of a weirder question.
Okay, I like weird.
What age do you think people could like start fantasy football, considering like some fantasy football is like for money and it's kind of complicated? So like, yeah.
Well,
what age do you think that would be?
It is a hard question because I'm not sure there's an answer for that. I think that, look at you two. What age did you two start playing?
I don't.
4.
Oh yeah, 4.
Okay then. So like, why would I ever say like like, look how young you were when you started and look how good you are. You're winning championships now. So I don't know that there's a magic number. I think it's if you like it and you are into learning about it and you can understand it enough to set a lineup, then you can play. And you two started at 4. I think that might be the youngest I've ever heard. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think a baby could play because a baby can't set a lineup.
Yeah. They can't like read or
right. But you two must have been pretty sharp at 4 years old to be able to set lineups and.
We knew our ABCs when we were like 2.
See, I mean, look at you.
I know.
Look at you. I'm in the presence.
It's the
of
next
geniuses.
generation, Stephania. It is the next generation.
I know. So I think, especially now, the way like the kids navigate the computers. My niece and nephew they smoke me on the computer, the iPad, everything electronic. So you guys were probably better at setting lineups like that. You probably could teach me a thing or two about how to navigate my own system.
when we were younger, our dad actually
like
set
we
our
just
lineups.
said what we wanted to do.
Yeah,
and
so
then
he
just
would like give us like options
makes
for who
sense.
to pick,
Just
and then
this
we
guy or
pick
this
one guy.
This guy.
But usually we would pick the guy he said last.
Yeah,
because-
you should. So on our here's a story about our first fantasy league.
Okay.
So, my dad did fantasy football a lot, and then one day, he was about to do a draft, so he like put us in the living room and turned on Frozen for us to watch, and we're like, well, when will we get to do a league? And he's like, you want to do a league? And we're like, yeah.
And then
So
he
he set
right
up
now?
a draft for us like right then.
Wow. Just
And then
like that.
yeah,
Tell me
And
that was not the happiest day of his life.
I know.
he was
I
like,
was like with your dad. He's like, you want to do a draft?
okay.
What made
All
you
right.
decide though? What made you decide you wanted to do it? Was it watching him do it? You saw how much you liked it, or
Yeah,
what?
like he
kind of.
he just did it
maybe
a
like
lot.
jealousy.
Jealousy. That's it.
Like, he said,
well,
"Okay, I'm gonna do a draft," and then we're like,
we just
"When
wanted
did
to
we
be
get to do a
involved.
draft?"
You just
We
wanted
just
to be
wanted to be
involved.
involved.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I bet you he loves that you are involved.
And then
You're so involved that you're beating him now. I don't know.
That's
if he
true.
commented that.
but yeah, anyway, and then when he was asking who we wanted, we were always picking the lowest guy because he was
I
like,
see that.
what, seriously? Okay. And then
Like,
so
oh my god!
okay, yeah, not that far. But anyway, we were like picking the worst people, like the people who were ranked lowest.
That's the worst.
I do
People
that
who
now.
were ranked lowest. And
No.
Maisy, did you hear? I corrected myself 2 times.
Hey, you know what? It's actually Maisie's turn. It's your turn to ask
Yeah,
the next question.
but I was still. So then our team was kind of looking rough, and but
had to.
then when we started the league, our team actually started doing really well. And guess what? We ended up winning the league.
See?
And that's where it all started.
Yes, we did. We won.
Am I right?
We won the whole league.
See?
I don't remember that. I think
We did.
I don't think we won the whole league. I think we
did.
got.
You know what? Nobody.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
You
Well,
won
there
the
you
whole
go.
league.
You won.
Oh, look at that.
Hey, you see?
See, Dad
won the whole run.
explains. Get
Yeah.
with it, Maisie.
Don't be so humble. You did win that league.
That's
Okay.
right.
We did win it.
All right, so Maisie, it's your second question, right?
Yes.
All right.
So I'm changing this question a tiny bit.
Uh-oh.
So,
Okay.
do you have any experience about being about like doing physical? Well, no, never mind.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I don't know what this question to be, so I'm just gonna skip this question
Go to
and
another
go on
one.
to the next one.
Okay.
Okay. Have you ever met someone famous while you were doing physical therapy? And if
Ooh.
so, who?
Well, I have because I used to work with a lot of athletes, and we can't really say a lot of their names because of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm not, but I can tell you that I've worked with a lot of different kinds of athletes. Some that were professional football and baseball and soccer. And get this, also, I used to work with a lot of dancers and
Hockey players?
hockey players in college. I used to work a lot with hockey players in college, but not so much on the pro side. I did work with like performing artists. So, like Broadway shows. When I was in the Bay Area and the Broadway shows were coming through San Francisco, I would do a lot of backstage work with the Broadway shows. So they're athletes too. They have to perform every night, or they could be out of their job, just like the same with the football players and the baseball players. So dancers and musicians. Musicians who either were touring with the shows or just, from them I got other musicians. So a lot of really people with really, really cool jobs.
The funny thing is I've been both a musician and and right now I'm a dancer, but not like extreme professional kind of stuff. I'm in like classes.
Well, you got to start.
Got to start somewhere.
Extreme professional. Professional.
Well, we all started. I used to take dance classes too. I wanted to be a professional dancer originally. That's what I thought I wanted to do. But then I changed. I thought that maybe I might not make it at that level. So I went towards medicine, and then I got to treat the dancers. That was really fun because I could still go to the shows and see the dance that I loved, but I would just take care of them in a different way.
Well, and I know you can't really talk about patients that you had, but you can talk about Project 11. Mm-hmm. So, with Alex Smith. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys saw that, but that was my first documentary feature that I got to do.
You're in a documentary?
Yeah, I've done 2.
I'm going to watch it.
Okay, well, there are some parts that are a little tough to watch. The injury was really bad, but
Dad can be with them.
Yeah, bless you. My goodness. But Alex Smith, he was quarterback of 49ers at one point. That's where he was drafted, and then he went to the Chiefs, and then he went to Washington. And when he was in Washington, he had a very bad injury to his ankle, and then it got infected, so badly that he lost part of his leg muscles, and he almost died. And so when he came out of being, after he got out of the woods, after the scary part, his doctor, who was a friend of mine, said he wanted to tell his story, and they came to me and asked if we would do it. And it was such a great story about overcoming difficulties. And he really, I think if you watch it, the thing you'll learn is just how hard he worked to get himself back. It's a great story about coming back.
And it was a great documentary. I loved
came back
watching
to play
that.
again. Yeah. And now he works with me.
Oh, that is so cool too. So look at that, girls. Look at what Stephania has kind of paved the way for other women, doing things like that. It's so good. So you girls have to. Your dad can help watch. She can get the parts. Yeah, girl power. Yeah. All right. So Maisy, do you have another question?
Well, now it's Rowan's turn.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
They don't need me.
Why did you start podcasting about sports? Like, I heard you're in several podcasts, or maybe just one. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you know what's funny is when I came to ESPN, so it was a long time ago. This is my 18th year with ESPN.
Nice.
And when I started there, I came there to write about fantasy sports and they were starting, well, it wasn't a TV show then, it was a digital show. And when we all got together, and Matthew Berry, I mean, you probably know who Matthew is. And Matthew was the one who brought me there. We were putting together all different kinds of things. And one of those things was a podcast. So we started a podcast, and I honestly did not know what a podcast was. It was when you wouldn't remember this because you had to be older to go back to when there were no podcasts. But we were one of the first podcasts, and I had to explain to people what a podcast was. And so we go in a radio studio, and it's like being on the radio, but it's not live. It's recorded, and then you can go and listen to it on the internet. That was how it worked. There was no Apple podcast place.
Showing face.
You had to go to ESPN's website, and then you could get the podcast. And so, you listen to it like a radio show. And it was really hard for me to explain what a podcast was, but we were one of the very early ones. And I'm very proud to say that our podcast is still running this many years later. But now there's so many, right? Everybody can do a podcast. They're all over. And there was no video. We did it. It was all audio. We just did it in a radio studio, and it was us talking like we were on the radio for an hour. And it was great because that's how we really became. It's easier to do that, I think, and develop your show and your personality and your content than it is on television, where it's very cut and dry and choppy, and you only have so long before you have to go to break. And podcast is very much about having a conversation like you're with friends. And so that was great for us, and it really got our identity for Fantasy Focus out there.
Fantastic. All right. So, Maisy, do you have anything else?
My last question is, have you ever enjoyed playing a sport?
Well, yeah. I mean, so when I didn't do team sports as much as I would have liked. Like now, I really wish I could have done something that was more of a team sport. I did a lot of individual sports like the dance and the gymnastics, and I ran track. So I had, people who did the sport with me, but a lot of my events were individual. And so I loved it. I loved competing. I loved running. I was a sprinter. Loved running. But those days are over. I miss it because I miss competition. That was fun. I loved it.
All right, girls, do you guys have any other questions? Was that it?
This is my last one.
All right.
Okay.
So that's kind of leaning towards my question, which is, did you do sports in college? If so, what sports did you play? And why?
Well, so I was, you got to be pretty good to do college sports. And I was a runner, but I played squash too. That was the other thing I took up squash a little bit later. Like when I was in junior high, I started playing. So I'm from the Bay Area, and they had built squash courts at Stanford, and it was very different. People out there did not know the sport very well, but my dad worked at Stanford, and he started playing. So he taught me, and I started playing squash. And when I went to high school, we had a squash team. So I played on that, but it was not really that developed at our high school. So we would do like little tournaments and stuff. And then when I went to college, squash was super competitive. Like we had they were some of the best in the world. Like a couple people from my college went pro. So wow. I played intramural squash because that was all I was going to be able to do. And then I was a walk-on for track. I did because I like the idea of running indoor track, and I wanted to run, but I hurt my ankle really badly, and I ended up having to have surgery, and I tore a tendon and had to have it repaired. And that was the end of my very, very short attempt at running track in college. So That's kind of how I got interested in physical therapy, to be honest. I was working in the training room, and then I had to go through it with my own ankle. So,
Oh goodness. I was going to ask if you treated yourself, but I thought, no, she didn't. Well, guess what, you did.
That physical therapy was pretty new at the time. Like, I really didn't know what PT was until I was in college and working around it and then dealing with my own injury. But if you talk to a lot of PTs, there's a whole bunch of us that are, athletes who got hurt and couldn't continue and had to go through rehab. And so that's why you got interested in treating other athletes,
Yeah. Hey, we have a couple things in the chat I want to throw up here.
Okay.
Woods Girl here would like to know, does Mike Clay get any grief from you or your coworkers for his projections on a player ever?
Always. Always. It's funny because we all want to know what his projections are. And we're just like everybody else. You're trying to decide between two players, and sometimes you think you want to start player X over player Y, and he has player Y rated ahead, and you're like, well, why do you have him rated ahead? You try and make him justify it. He's got all these algorithms, and it's very sophisticated. And I mean, Mike is so good at what he does. And yet we all challenge him all the time because you always want to be right yourself too. And he'll say things like, you got to go with what you think, or if somebody's been performing really well for you. He'll say, well, then you should go with that player if you trust it. But, we all give each other a hard time on the show, but it's all in good fun because the truth is we have a lot of respect for each other and what everybody does and to contribute to their role. And Mike, it is a thankless job to do those projections. It is incredible.
It is, yeah.
So,
well, and it kind of ties in. Yeah, and Gator kind of wanted to know how you got connected with ESPN.
That was Matthew Berry. It was Matthew who invited me out for an audition when he got hired by ESPN. ESPN bought Matthew's website, Talented Mr. Roto, that he had started, and when they bought it and they basically brought him into the company, they charged him with building out the fantasy department. And within that first year, I had met him through some of the fantasy sports. It's now FSGA, but it was FSTA at the time, from a couple of those meetings. And he basically had me submit a couple writing things for the editorial group and then had me come out for an audition. And
the rest is history.
The rest is history, yeah.
Hey, girls, you can get your Tim Tam stuff ready, okay?
Oh,
all right.
I'm so jealous.
Oh, and we have to give a shout out to Tootsie Pop because does she not run the Unwind that is so great that brought us together? Actually, that's
right.
How I met you and
brought a lot of people together.
all the other ladies in the chat. So she would like to know what your favorite league you played in this year.
Well, my favorite league is usually the one I do the best in.
Yeah. The one I win.
So this year it was probably Scott Fishbowl because I had my most success there. I did not, I made playoffs in a bunch of my leagues, and then I was out like in the first round. I did not have great playoff success this year. I always love playing in our War Room League. I mean, people who watch us on our Sunday show hear us talk about it because it's so much fun playing with people who all have different angles of information. It's a 16-team league, so it's incredibly deep. It's hard to get any of good player. Like once you draft, it's really hard, and the waiver wire opens up, and everybody's so engaged. And it's hard because Adam Schefter's in the league too, and he always knows things are about to happen. So you see him looking to pick someone up, or make a trade, you think, what does he know that we don't know yet?
Oh, that's funny.
But the War Room League is really, really fun. But we actually had a lot of fun on our Sunday show on Fantasy Football Now. We have a show league there that we talk about on Sundays and give each other a lot of grief. So it was fun.
Insider trading.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing.
Our podcast league. One of the things, I will say this, that we did on our podcast league this year that was really fun was we played with victory points. And do you guys know what that is?
No. Can you tell us?
So you know how if you go head to head, like you're playing against another team, whoever scores the most points wins, right?
Yeah.
So if you score the most points, you win that week. and if the other person loses. But sometimes you can have a really good team that scores a lot of points, and you just have bad luck because you're always going against whoever it is you face that week. They always seem to do better than you. So you might start off like 0-4, but you could still have the most points scored of anyone in the league and still be losing those matchups. So with victory points, the league is split in half. Every week, the top 50% in terms of points get a victory, and the bottom 50% get a loss. So, for example, if I were to lose in a head-to-head matchup, but I still was one of the top point scorers, I would be 1-1 that week.
Okay.
So
almost like a median, sort of like a median.
Well, it's not really, because it's there can be a big gap between the top and the bottom, but that way you're getting credit for high point totals. So at the end, if you are the top point scorer and you win, you go 2-0. So you have an opportunity to get 2 victories each week, but at least you also have an opportunity to get 2 losses. But if you have a high point scoring team and I think what it does is it makes sure that teams that are high producers in terms of fantasy points don't miss out on the playoffs. Just because
I like that. Yeah,
I
like that.
So I think we all enjoyed that because there were opportunities to get some kind of victory in a week, even if you didn't take the head-to-head.
All right, cool. Hey, Maisy, would you like to ask the next question I'm going to pull up?
Yes. Okay, does anybody else in your family play fantasy football?
Yeah, what about you? Yeah, you girls. Well,
You
your
girls
dad.
go first.
Yeah.
My dad does.
Yeah.
My mom doesn't really like football that much, except she always watches the Oregon games.
Yeah, always.
The
that didn't go well.
That's where she went to college.
Did she go to Oregon? Is she having a tough time right now?
Oh yeah, and Dad went to Boise State, so it's not been a good week.
Oh.
Everybody's sad. It's
Everybody's
depressing.
sad. Do we have a pro team we can cheer for?
And what about you, Stephania? Does anyone else in your family play?
Yes, my brother plays. He actually ended up in that co-ed league. We were together in that league for a while. And my sister-in-law plays, and she's really good. She plays at her law firm, and they've gotten so competitive. People want to be in the league so much, and there's too many people that they're now doing like this 2-tiered thing where you get relegated if you don't score high enough. So it's very intense, but she's really good at it too. So
cool.
There's people throughout the family who play fantasy football.
All right. Rowan, would you like to ask the next question?
Who is next year's must-draft player for her? Who is her?
Yeah.
We're
That
all
would be Stephania.
Okay.
This is true. This is very true.
But
How about Stephania goes first?
But
Lots of hers.
Let's see. It's fun, right? Because you see these players emerge and you're like, wow, I am looking at this player for next year. Well, I shouldn't say never, but I rarely go into a draft going, I must have this person, because it really depends on where I'm drafting. And I won't necessarily completely sacrifice my lineup if it doesn't fall right. But players I will have my eye on for sure. Brock Bowers at tight end, so productive, so prolific. Malik Neighbors, depending on like what happens with the Giants and who's their quarterback. Brian Thomas. Let's see. Saquon was amazing this year. Hard to know if Saquon can reproduce. So hard to do back-to-back years like that. But it's interesting too, because I'm probably going to be really high on Christian McCaffrey coming into next year.
Oh,
because he is not.
He's not done, huh?
And if I know anything about him, it's look out next year. Next year. And people will be afraid. So that means I probably have a better chance of getting him.
Yeah.
What about you girls? Who do you want for next year?
I'm excited for Christian McCaffrey. I heard that by the time that next year comes, then Ashton Genty will be playing NFL football. So I'm excited for him.
I bet
He'll
he's a
be
big topic in your household.
Yeah.
He's really good. But yeah, I'm also excited for him.
All right.
So yeah,
Maisy,
those are probably for me.
we have another question, Maisy.
Who is the champion girl's favorite player?
That's
Oh
you
yeah,
two.
she just asked that though, didn't she?
Okay.
All right, so we did that.
Well, that's
All right.
not like
Okay,
what
yeah.
I want. What I'm looking.
Yeah, he's not.
forward
Those
to.
are not my favorite players.
So who's your
okay.
favorite players?
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Mine is Bijan Robinson.
And
I did a whole podcast on Bijan Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Do you know I interviewed him last year?
No.
I sat down with him in
Mhm.
Atlanta and interviewed him for a piece I was doing on running backs.
Whoa.
Yeah. And he's really nice, very sharp, very thoughtful. I was very impressed. How's that?
Cool. How about you, Maisy? Who is your favorite player?
Mine is Josh Allen.
I knew that.
Okay.
She
And
knew
so-
that. She knew it.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Not gonna lie, that's a
Not
good
bad, not
choice.
bad.
That's a good choice. He carried me in the Scott Fish Bowl. Gosh, I liked it.
So Vince wants to know, you girls, let's do your Tim Tam Slam. Is your hot cocoa ready?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
right here.
All right.
Okay.
But first, let's answer the question. No,
No,
we have
never
not.
tried.
This is my first Tim Tam
my
ever.
second.
I'm gonna have to send you some,
Enjoy.
Stephania.
I know. I feel like I'm just missing out. I'm gonna watch though. I feel like I'm watching the Food Network or something.
I know,
like that.
I
You're gonna get,
know.
Like,
It's
this experience.
I told them when
I'm
I sent that to
starting
them, I'm
the
like,
slam
it's
one
probably
second.
what
I'm not
contributed
ready
to
yet.
my diabetes, but it is so good.
So you bite off each end
Yep,
and you make the straw, and then you bring the cocoa up through the
yep.
candy. Is it candy or a cookie? What are we?
It's a cookie.
Oh, no.
It's a
wait.
cookie. It's kind of
Oh
got like
no,
a.
it's not going well. It's not going well.
Oh no! Did it melt? Okay. Yeah. Oh wow.
It's not good.
There's a lot going on there.
I'm
It was
telling you
good.
though, it's really good.
It's delicious, but it did not go well.
It's
But
hard
it
when
tastes
you're
good.
live.
That's all that
Yeah.
matters. I'm kind of jealous. I might have to go make some hot cocoa now.
Oh my gosh, this has been so fun. Stephania, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Can you let everyone know where to find
I
you?
didn't even get any hot cocoa. It was
You
just
didn't?
a tab.
Just the Tim Tam.
Yeah,
Well,
it
Jam.
That's all right. It sounds like that was the better option.
I'm glad we did it at the end, but yes, can you tell
Yes,
everyone where we can
well,
find you, Miss Stephania?
Yes, I'm on the socials on let's see, it's X now. I still call it Twitter because I do at Stephania_ESPN, and I'm at Stephania Bell on Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky, and that's basically it. I mean, our podcasts are coming to a close. We have our last regular season show tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So Fantasy Focus, the podcast, our last regular season show is tomorrow. Hope you guys will check it out. You can watch it live from 10 to 11 Eastern or on YouTube. And I mean, on YouTube live, but then it will live there afterwards. And also the ESPN app. Let's see. Our Sunday show is 10 to 1 Eastern. It's our last show of the season this week. So I hope you guys check it out. ESPN2 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. Some people still play in their championships in week 18. So the hardest thing about this week is trying to figure out who's actually playing.
Right, yeah.
So
I don't even know if anybody knows who's actually playing, including the teams.
Yeah, that's after we're done with this show. I'm getting back to work to get ready for tomorrow. And then we do have a big awards show for our fantasy. We give out all our awards for MVPs and Rookie of the Year and Fantasy Flop, which I always feel bad giving that one out. But that show is going to be on January 14th. So mark your calendar, but we're going to do one last time in the podcast studio for this season to give out the awards on January 14th. And then I'll have other stuff I work on. I do some stuff with other sports too. So we'll see what happens over the course of the year. And maybe I'll see Wendi at the Combine again.
I know. It's so hard because I'm not sure the dates yet because I'm going to WrestleMania in Las Vegas. I know. So it's going to be hard to get that time off. I hope I can go. That would be wonderful.
The Combine is one of my favorite
I
things.
know.
But I will be at Senior Bowl hopefully before that. And Senior Bowl is fantastic. I highly recommend it. So many draft prospects who were excited about coming into the NFL will be at Senior Bowl. It's a great chance to see them. So that's in February. I mean, there's really no rest. Right.
Yeah, this is true. You don't have an off season. You have no off season.
Senior Bowl is the end of January. So you roll right from one thing into the next.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been the latest episode of the Sneaky Flex featuring Rowan and Maisy, the champion girls, and our guest, Stephania Bell from ESPN. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to both the Club Fantasy FFL and Women of Fantasy Football YouTube channels so you never miss any of the shows. Also follow at the Sneaky Flex on Twitter. Thank you, everyone, that you followed along this whole season. We hope to see you back next season. Maybe, Stephania, you could help us get renewed, okay? We want to be renewed. You probably have like a pretty good person that does contracts and negotiations. So see what you can do to get us back next year. Maybe you can come and see us again.
I would love that. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored that I got to be on your very last show of the season.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next season. Bye.
Bye.